Today I'm going to be ranking all the Batman movies. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm going to be ranking all the live action Batman movies from worst to best. I got 10 of them here. The only two I did not include are the two Justice League movies. I will be talking about them in the future when I rank the DCEU, so we will get to those. Make sure you drop your ranking of all these Batman movies down in the comments. I'd love to hear how you guys feel about these films, and without wasting any more time, let's rank them. So easily coming into last place, I have Batman and Robin. Wow, this is one I actually used to love as a kid back in the 90s, but it did not age well, especially seeing it through the eyes of an adult. It's just way too Looney Tunes, too goofy and childish for me. It's been well documented that this movie was basically just made to sell toys to children, and you can totally see that. They even reference it once in the film itself about the toys. George Clooney plays a terrible Batman and a terrible Bruce Wayne. He just feels like George Clooney the whole time. It feels like Joel Schumacher was really trying to go out there and make a Batman comedy instead of just making a serious Batman flick, which he really should have been doing. For instance, Mr. Freeze, played by Arnold, is non-stop with the ice puns like time to chill, time to freeze, and it just gets annoying after a while. I do like Mr. Freeze character in here, especially how he's dealing with trying to find a cure for his wife and all that. But all that serious stuff gets cut with all this really childish humor. I also really dig Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. I think she's great. She brings that sex appeal to the role. But Bane, oh my god, this is where the movie gets bad. Bane is so terrible. Worst character ever adapted into a film, especially for these Batman movies. He is just the muscle, and he's just yelling, Bane! And he like yells out one word stuff, and he's this useless man. Bane's supposed to be clever. This guy, he's just dumb. They also introduce Batgirl in here, who is Alfred's niece, and didn't have to be in the film. I feel like she's only here to even the odds against the three villains versus the three heroes, right? And yeah, this is not a very good movie. There is still some fun to be had in here, but for the most part, it's just way too silly for me. Up next, at number 9, we got Batman from 1966. This is the one starring Adam West, and, you know, it followed the TV series around the same time. This one is also super goofy, super silly, but I'm a little more lenient towards it because it is a product of its time. It knew what it was doing. You know, when he's punching and you see pow and bam, it's very like comic book style in that regards. It's super silly, but like I said, the jokes just seem to land a little bit more. You get a lot of ridiculous scenes, like a whole shark attack on Batman, and he uses shark repellent to get rid of him, and like, you know, running around with a big bomb on the docks. It's very old school. Like, I think we get way too many villains in here. We got the Riddler, the Penguin, the Joker, and Catwoman, where they're really not all needed. You could easily take away the Joker and the Riddler, and it would not change much of the film at all. The actors are great in the roles for what they're given, but none of them are real deep. I feel like the Penguin's used pretty well in here. You know, using his technology and using like the submarine and everything, that makes sense. And Catwoman, how she changes her persona to try to get Batman and Bruce Wayne, you know. And I love this version of Catwoman. She is the best villain in this flick to me, easily. She really steals the show. All in all, it's really a product of its time. It's not something I would put on all the time, but I can appreciate for what it was trying to do. Up next at number 8, we got Batman Forever, the first Joel Schumacher film, and this is where we start to see the decline in quality, and we're going into the more Looney Tune territory here. But this one doesn't cross the line too far like Batman and Robin. We get Two-Face and we get the Riddler in here, both played by great actors Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. The only problem I have with them is unfortunately their motivations are very weak. Like Two-Face wants to get Batman, he wants to get even at him because he says that he put acid or burnt half of his face, right? Which is totally not true. It even shows a flashback scene with Batman trying to save him, and it was a mobster who threw the acid. So that makes zero sense to me. And of course, the Riddler looks up to Bruce Wayne like it's his idol until he tells him, "Let me look at your project in a couple more days. I can't approve it right now." And he just goes mad and says, "You're the worst person possible to ever live," and he gets so mad at him out of nowhere. It just doesn't make any sense. But these two actors really just ham up the roles, and it's a lot of fun to watch them in this type of movie. Tommy Lee Jones' character Two-Face, he can get a little annoying to me with his constant yelling and laughing and just like screaming out of nowhere. It does bother me a little bit, but I do enjoy Jim Carrey going completely all out and basically being part Ace Ventura, part crazy person, it really works. Val Kilmer actually plays a pretty good Batman. I like that he still struggles with his dark side, having nightmares about his parents dying and bats and stuff like that. And he's like in a relationship partly with the psychiatrist, this doctor played by Nicole Kidman. And I think all that's very interesting and serious, but then again they keep throwing in a bunch of goofy shit which kind of breaks the tension. And for some reason this whole movie is lit up in neon lights. Like the whole city is full of neon lights. Don't know why. It's an odd choice. I don't know if it's trying to give them more of that comic book feeling or something, but it just looks really weird when we never really seen that in Gotham before. We also get the introduction of Robin in here, and I really do like that they try to throw in his backstory with the acrobats and his family. They tweak it a bit for the movie, but I think it works. So to me, this movie's a mixed bag. Half this movie really works for me, and the other half is getting a little too goofy. Up next, at number 7, I got The Dark Knight Rises. It pains me to put a Christopher Nolan movie this low on the list, but this one just doesn't work for me at all. Batman is a very broken character in this one, which I don't mind, but he's literally broken after he fights Bane. And I just don't like that a lot of the movie. He's kind of useless, and then he gets put in a pit and everything, and it just really hurts the pacing of the film. The action isn't nearly as good as the previous two Nolan movies, and I just don't like Bane in here either. Tom Hardy's awesome, but this version of Bane is not my favorite. Definitely a big step up from Batman and Robin, don't get me wrong. But yeah, he just really didn't do anything for me. And I don't like how this movie, we keep getting a bunch of time jumps out of nowhere. It happens multiple times. I feel like the plot's fairly stupid. With the city getting taken over and the cops being underground and everything. It's just, everything was so realistic about this trilogy. It was very grounded until this film, I feel. I do like the little twist that we get revealing Ra's al Ghul's kid. And Anne Hathaway plays a pretty badass Catwoman. That's one thing they never get wrong, is Catwoman in this series. Doesn't matter what movie, she's always done to perfection. Up next, at number 6, we got Batman Returns. This was a childhood favorite of mine. This is one I put above all the other 4 original Batman movies at one time, but not anymore. On this last rewatch, I had more problems with it. But the saving grace to this movie, the thing that puts this movie up a whole star for me, is Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. She is my favorite Catwoman easily. She has this like almost zombie version of her after she falls out the window and becomes so pale. I love her costume, how it's all like stitched up together. It looks awesome. She brings so much charisma and like, I don't know, she brings something to the role that no other actor did. But the Penguin, I love DeVito, but the Penguin just doesn't do a whole lot for me. He's not really intimidating at all. You got Christopher Walken's character in here too, and we don't get a whole lot of Batman, especially for like the first hour of the movie. There's barely any Batman or Bruce Wayne, which is, I think, a big no-no when you're in a Batman movie. And this one definitely has even more Tim Burton-esque to it, than the first film. I feel like the studios let him do a little bit more here. It's just unfortunate the story just isn't as good as the original. Up next, at number 5, we got Batman vs. Superman. Now, I love that this movie picks up right after Man of Steel and it shows you all the destruction that they cause in that film, destroying Metropolis, and it shows you how people are dealing with that, their sense of loss, and do we trust Superman anymore? You know, he was trying to do the right thing, but he did a whole lot of bad and killed a lot of people at the same time in the fight. And of course, this brings in Batman, and that's how he views Superman. That, you know, he's not someone with this much power can't be trusted. But Batman's not all good in here either. He's played by Ben Affleck, and I like this version of the character because he's a little older, a little more demented. I think how he's like branding people with the bat symbol. So he's not all good too, and it just makes for a great way for these two to come together in an awesome matchup, especially the whole warehouse scene. That's a great kick-ass scene. I just wish it lasted a little longer. I also love Wonder Woman in here. We get an introduction of her, and when she shows up with her theme song, it is so badass. I love it every time I watch it. Unfortunately, I do not like Lex Luthor in here. I think he's terrible, played by Jesse Eisenberg. His line delivery is just cringeworthy, and it's just like too silly again for this serious type of movie, and I think he's terribly miscasted. And on top of that, the movie just tries to do too many things in too little of time. It tries to set up the Justice League, introduction of Wonder Woman, introduction of Batman, you know, the big fight between the two, Batman and Superman, the big fight with Doomsday, you know, all the Lex Luthor stuff. There's just way too many plot lines going on here. It makes the movie a little bit convoluted, and it's just a little bit too ambitious for its own good. But it's still a solid flick in my mind, and I actually like it a little better on every rewatch. Now, getting into our top four, these four are all solid and kind of interchangeable in my ranking. You know, they're all the top movies in the Batman franchise. Coming in at number 4, we got The Batman from 2022. Now, this is a very serious, dark, grimy take on the character. It kind of took what Nolan did and made it even a little bit more darker than that. We get Batman played by Pattinson in here, and who knew, but man, he did a fantastic job in the role. And one thing I gotta add, I love that when he takes off his mask, he still has the black marks around his eyes, which they screw up in every other Batman movie. So take notes. But he's awesome. He's kicking ass. You know, he doesn't hold back when he's beating the shit out of these mobsters. You know, and I love him for that. He's also a great detective, probably the best detective we had in these movies. Because that's a big side of Batman as well, and I feel like he really dives in and tries to figure out what's going on with, you know, the Riddler being the villain as well, and all of his clues in that. He's really good at deciphering them and trying to figure out what's going on with his city. And the Riddler does a great job in here as well. I can't remember the actor's name, but he is almost like Jigsaw in here, killing people with hammers and duct taping them and leaving messages for Batman. And he's one of those villains that you can kind of see where he's coming from, because he's trying to show the city how corrupt it is, trying to show Batman what's really going on with the mayor and all the politicians, the crooked cops. 3/4 of this town are all corrupt and evil. So I like that he's shining a light on that, but he's doing it in a very villainous way. And we get a real different relationship between him and Catwoman in here, you know, played by Zoe Kravitz, I believe. It's not your typical Catwoman type relationship with Batman, but it works for this film, keeping things grounded, like I said. Same thing with the Penguin, played by Colin Farrell. He just gets lost in the role. You cannot even guess it's him at all. He plays it so well that they're even coming out with a Penguin TV series. So kudos to him. He did a fantastic job in the role. All in all, this is a very dark take on the Batman lore, but I absolutely loved it. Only thing, it moves very, very slowly, this film. So it's not one I rewatch all that often. There's no filler here, I feel. Everything's deliberate in its pacing, but it does move slower. So I know that would turn off a lot of people, and it's longer runtime. But for me, it was just a breath of fresh air to see this type of Batman that we never really got before with the great detective work. Reaching our top 3, I got Batman from 1989, the original. This movie did so much for cinema, you know, especially the comic book genre and the superhero genre. We only ever had Superman before this, which, you know, broke the mold when it came out. And then when this one came out, it showed how darker a superhero movie can be at the helm of Tim Burton, and he did a fantastic job at directing it. Michael Keaton is our Batman, and he has that perfect balance between Bruce Wayne and Batman. You know, he has that charisma as the playboy millionaire, and he has the seriousness and the willpower as Batman. And I think he just has that perfect balance that a lot of these other actors just never had. You gotta love his love interest as well, Vicky Vale, played by Kim Basinger. I call her Miss Lips, if you know what I mean. But yeah, they're both of them are great. There's a little bit overshadowed by our villain, the Joker, played by the great Jack Nicholson. What can you say from about him, man? He's one of the best villains ever. Whether you're talking about The Shining, the Joker, he's so good at playing these evil characters. It's like he has it in him. We get great set pieces, an iconic score. It's everything you want from a Batman movie. And they did an excellent job on their first big motion picture that took itself seriously, not like the 60s film. Reaching our top two, we got Batman Begins, the first of the Nolan trilogy. And wow, one of my favorite origin stories of all time. I'm glad that a lot of these Batman movies don't have to keep repeating the origin, you know, but this one takes its time with it, and it does an excellent job showing Bruce Wayne. You know, I love how he goes to his training with the League of Shadows, with Ra's al Ghul, and shows how he learned all of his skills and everything, eventually turning on them, going back to Gotham. And Liam Neeson plays a great Ra's al Ghul, in my opinion. I think he's very intimidating and but like wise and clever at the same time. And I found it was pretty genius how they were able to take the Scarecrow and make him a more grounded character in here, played by Cillian Murphy as the psychiatrist who sprays this gas in your face that will make you fear whatever you fear, right? See whatever you fear, and he wears that badass scarecrow mask, and it looks absolutely amazing. And Christian Bale, I mean, he is one of the best actors out there to this day, and he totally sold me on Bruce Wayne and Batman himself. He's also a pretty well balanced actor when it comes to playing these characters. And one last thing, I just want to say that the town in Batman Begins looks very run down, looks very gothic, which they lose in the other two Nolan movies, where Gotham just looks like any other town, you know, like Chicago or whatever. But in this one, you really feel like it's Gotham. But for me, easily coming in the first place is The Dark Knight. Wow. Who knew they could follow up Batman Begins with this masterpiece? There's so much good to be said about this flick. Again, Christian Bale is great as the Batman. So is Michael Caine as Alfred, and Morgan Freeman as his as Fox, his like kind of tech guy and military guy. It's cool that they added him in this trilogy because it just, again, it makes sense how he's getting all these gadgets and that, where it didn't make a whole lot of sense before, where they're just randomly in a cave in the older films. But in this one, I love all those aspects. We got James Gordon, the best version of that character you'd ever see. He has, you know, a lot pulling on him. He wants to trust Batman and go with his instincts, but he's not sure who to trust at one point. We got Harvey Dent in here, played by Aaron Eckhart, who becomes Two-Face. The way he becomes Two-Face is friggin' brilliant and really tears apart the city. Which is the whole reason why they have to blame Batman at the end of this film, so that the city can grow and heal from everything that happened. Of course, everybody is overshadowed again by the Joker, this time played by Heath Ledger, who gives a lifetime performance in here. You know, so good that he ended up taking his life while doing the role. He got so deep into it, and you can just every scene that he's in, he completely steals every single time. Just oozes the Joker. I mean, and this is not your normal type of Joker. He plays it very different than anything we've ever seen before or seen after, but it just works, man. The whole magic trick, how he keeps taunting Batman all the time, not wanting to kill him, just wanting to bring him down to his own level, you know? And I just love that, and all these different situations he puts people in, like with the boats with the two bombs, just so tense. So many tense filled scenes in here, from the hospital to that, just so great. The highway scene is one of the coolest set pieces and choreographed action scenes in the entire franchise for me. So great. And how he's like, do it, do it. He wants Batman to run him over, but he just can't because he's too good of a person. I can honestly talk about this movie all day. All the villains have great motives, and you understand where they're coming from. Everything works, from a story point of view to a villain point of view to Batman's point of view to the world building. Everything is done to perfection, and it easily comes in the first place for me. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all the Batman movies. I would love to hear yours down in the comment section. You can also follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram. I always have links to those down in the description of my video if you're interested. I had a blast going through all these films. Blast from the past for some, and a few of them I've only seen a few times, so it was a real treat to revisit them. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, thanks for watching.